What is going on, everybody? Jake Blickenstaff here with you in another video. Today I'm coming at you with Tip Tuesday. So today I want to share with you guys something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm always looking for new ways to share with you guys on real estate investing, different strategies that are used, also things that you're already normally doing, but better ways that it's kind of going to help you get to where you're trying to get to whenever it comes to purchasing real estate or just being involved in real estate to begin with. So let's go ahead and dive right in, and I'll show you guys what I have for you. All right, so on today, we're going to talk about house hacking. And you can see me up here in the corner. I'll be with you throughout the whole thing, obviously. All right, so with house hacking, what that is, it's really an investment strategy where you're able to buy either a single family or multifamily property as your primary residence, and you rent out a portion of it to help reduce some of your living costs that you're already normally going to have. Now, what this does is it enables the owner to be able to live for free or even a lot less than some of your surrounding homeowners or even renters. And it's really being able to benefit from the advantage of home ownership without having the full mortgage payment that you have to deal with. So some of the different examples of what house hacking is include maybe it's just renting out an extra bedroom in your house. We've seen this kind of taken by storm with the Airbnb model. And then you'll have the ability to rent out an in-law suite, or what's called an ADU, an attached dwelling unit. So if you have one of those additional portions of a property on the backside of a house, or maybe a finished unit above a garage, people look to rent out that space as well. One of the common examples that I'm going to be using more so in today's example is going to be buying a multi-family home. So that's going to be a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, usually 2 to 4 units. And then you also have the renting out yard or garage space, kind of like what we just talked about. So some of the benefits to house hacking is you're able to live for free. It's phenomenal for beginners whenever you go to first buy your first house. You're going to have monthly cash flow and passive income. It's going to help you build equity and wealth. Gives you a lot of flexibility for whatever your options are, where you're at location-wise. If you want to take advantage of a new job, maybe you want to downsize to a different type of job or career that gives you more flexibility, more time, but you have to take less money or less of a salary to be able to take advantage of that, or even maybe going back to school. You'll get great landlording experience, and you also get to reap the benefits of depreciation. So there's definitely some tax benefits and savings involved there. So some of the strategies involved when it comes to house hacking, it's pretty straightforward. You find the best low down payment owner occupant loan that you can. You buy a multi-unit property, which is, like I said, 2 to 4 units, and you wind up living in one of those units for at least a year. You have to be there for at least a year with an FHA loan. And then you rent out all the other units. And then you can just rinse and repeat this as often as you want, buying another property. You can move out and repeat the process, like I said, over and over and over again. So some of the questions that are important that you need to ask if you are interested in house hacking and what you need to look at. So first question is the property affordable with conventional financing? And I'm going to go into more details on each one of these questions also. Second question is, are you willing to live in the property? Number 3, will the property cash flow? And number 4, is there a reasonable chance at appreciation? So let's dive into number 1. Is the property affordable with conventional financing? Well, there's 2 obvious follow-up questions that come with that. It's how much money do you currently have? And how much money does the property in the area that you want to buy actually cost? Well, unlike a lot of people think, when it comes to home ownership, you don't need to have that 20% down payment of whatever the home purchase price is. The FHA loans still are in existence. You are able to do that if you qualify and have good credit and you have a good job, show stable income for the last 2 years. Now, if you need assistance with any home loans and things like that, reach out to me, send me a message. I have a lot of mortgage lenders that I work with on a daily basis that I refer clients out to. They'll be more than happy to look at what your current situation is and find a loan program that fits kind of what you're trying to accomplish. But if you have good credit and a good job, you can put down as little as 3.5% on an FHA loan. So normally somebody would go out and use that FHA loan and buy their first house. But you have the ability to do that same thing, buying a 2, 3, or a 4 unit property. So on an example for this, say it's a $300,000 property and you're going to use an FHA loan with 3.5% down, that actually comes out to only being about $10,500. So jumping over to number 2 is, are you willing to live in the property? Well, the purchase price of the, excuse me, the purchase of a primary residence or a house hack doesn't meet a basic lifestyle goal if you're not going to be happy living there. So you got to make sure that that's going to be a possibility for you. And then you want to make sure that you buy in a location that's going to be acceptable to you, makes sense as far as like where you're working, what your commute is, and just given other circumstances that are currently going on in your life. Now, if you run into issues with like your specific area being too expensive in your city, start looking at some of the outlying areas. Maybe there's some examples or some opportunity there. Or you could always look at moving to another city if that's an option. But you need to figure out what's going to put yourself in the best financial position to be able to purchase an investment property based on what you're capable of qualifying for. Number 3, will the property cash flow? So there's going to be 2 cash flow analyses that you have to run. One, you need to look at all the numbers with you being an occupant, and then you also need to look at it with you not being an occupant. So once you decide to move out, if you were just looking at it from a straight investment standpoint. So a true house hack should be analyzed, like I said, as an investment property. It's going to produce cash flow, or it should produce cash flow, so that if you did move away eventually and you hired somebody else to manage it, that it would generate passive income for you. That's going to be important. So a little bit more of a deep dive on this. Cheap duplex in this example, we'll say is $240,000 in a reasonable part of town. And each half of it rents for about $1,200 a month, which is $2,400 in total. So with an FHA loan, this property might have a mortgage payment, including principal and interest, taxes, insurance, of about $1,500 a month. Some additional expenses include repairs and maintenance, which we'll just say is $50 a month. Water, gas, electric, all your utilities, about $180. Capital expenditures, or CapEx, are these large irregular expenses. So it's going to be like a roof, your AC unit, septic system, those kind of things. We'll just say that's $200 a month. Now, you're not actually spending that money, but what you do need to do is you need to account for those, because they come up usually about every 5, 7, 10 years, that time frame. So if you save for those on the front end and you just pad that into any of your expenses, then when those expenses do come, you already have some of that there, so it's not so much of a large hit for you. We also like to include vacancies at a rate of about 5%, so that'll be about $120 a month. And then go ahead and include property management fees, which is usually about 8 to 12% of whatever the monthly rent is, into your original analysis, just so that way when you do wind up moving out, you already have that built in. And if you don't wind up using a property manager, then it's just more money that you wind up getting to put directly into your pocket. So in this example, the property would generate about $2,400 a month in income as a standalone investment, and this is with you not living in it, and would have about $2,250 in expenses if the owner was to move away. So while the owner is living there, the property will have obviously lower vacancies, less repairs and maintenance costs, and no property management expenses because you're going to be there. The owner is going to have close to about $1,800 in expenses, and that's offset by collecting rent from only one side, because remember, you're living in the other side, of about $1,200 from the other side's rent. So what that takes down is only about $600 left that's coming out of your pocket to cover where you live. So that's going to be cheaper than anywhere else that you could live as a renter. It's more than likely going to be a better place. and it's going to be less expensive than if you were just buying a house and taking care of all the expenses that go in to owning a house on your own. So number 4, is there a reasonable chance at appreciation? So in the investment side of real estate, appreciation is what we like to consider icing on the cake. So from experienced investors, it's usually not a major consideration. It's just kind of an added bonus whenever you're looking at any investment property. And appreciation can produce a more powerful impact for you than it can for a traditional investor. Assuming that you live in the property for more than 2 years, when you go to sell the property, much of the capital gains become tax-free. So that's a huge advantage, but always make sure to check with your CPA or your tax attorney. Once again, by no means am I a tax professional, but that's an advantage that a lot of us like to take. So in conclusion, with house hacking, it can be applicable to an incredibly broad range of Americans. The answer to traditional question of do I buy or do I rent, that debate kind of goes back and forth. And the normal adage is if buying is better if you plan to live there for several years and renting is better for the short run. Well, if that's true, then house hacking can accelerate that and still give you the flexibility to be mobile and move, whether your job calls for it or whether you just like to be not be tied down to a certain location. But if you do buy a rental property that would cash flow from day one and you do decide to house hack it, you'll have a lot more of that flexibility that we talk about in a year or two than a lot of the other peers that are tied down with leases or have mortgages and then are looking at potential rental income from that single family property as opposed to a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, my name is Jake Blickenstaff. My number is 404-281-5002. I would love to help you if you're in the Athens market or any of the surrounding areas looking for a potential house hack opportunity. I'd love to set up a search for you and answer any questions you might have. Until then, we'll see you guys on the next one.